What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We need to get this freaking transmission fixed for the VIII. I already started messing with it this morning. I have all of the shift forks out and everything torn apart except for the gears. I know nothing is wrong with the gear sets themselves, and all the forks were in the proper places as well. That pretty much leaves it to be either that shifter assembly or all of the pins and balls that run through all these holes right here. Something is messed up in there. I'm leaning toward something going on in here. I know it's going to be an easy fix, so I'm just going to run a time lapse, and whenever we figure it out, I'll show you guys what the problem was. Okay, I've been at this thing for a while now. For the life of me, I cannot get this to work properly. As you can see, we have all of the shift forks off. We each have the pins in. So there's 4 total shift fork pins. And basically, you're supposed to be able to slide these up and down. There's little grooves, little notches just like this in the bottom of some of these. That shift selector goes in the top case. There's a little nub that'll go in here, and I'll push this either up or down. But when all 4 of these pins are assembled with all of the interlock pins, interlock balls, and interlock springs, these things are super hard to move. I know I have all those interlock springs and pins in together. There's a very good diagram on the workshop manual. It's very simple. Everything in here works fine. I can physically shift the gears on all of them. So I know that's not the problem. It has to be something with the interlock pins and springs. But I cannot figure it out. We've been at this for 5 hours today already. 5. And I'm lost. So there's clearly something still going on inside the transmission. It should not be this hard to shift. Yeah, I know that doesn't feel right. I'm not a transmission expert, but that is not right. I've had this thing apart and back together like 10 times now. I have no clue what's going on. I'm half tempted to just completely assemble it, like throw the bolts in there, throw it in a crate, ship it out to some Evo transmission shop. And they'll probably call me and say, you had a little spring in the wrong place or something stupid like that. But at the same time, I don't like giving up. I know it's been like 2 whole days working on this thing. Literally, it's 5 o'clock and we got to the shop at 8 a.m. this morning. It's now 5 o'clock. And this is all we've been doing, is trying to figure out this freaking transmission. I'm going to pull it back apart again. I don't know what it is. It's really bugging me though. And I feel very useless today, which is a bad feeling. Here is the last and final update. Transmission is back apart. Once again, everything with the gear set is fine. All the gears, everything perfect. We don't need to touch any of that. I know all that's good. Everything slides like it should. The issue is there's 4 pins, or 4 shafts total, right? One there, and there. In between them is all the pins and springs. For some reason, that whole assembly is much too tight. You can get the shafts to go down. So when all the pins are in, let's see, this one sits here. All the pins are in, this one will sit like that. See that groove right there? That should be able to slide down and pop it into the next gear, or slide up to that bottom slot, or the bottom groove, and pop it into the next gear. The only way you can get this shaft to slide when the whole thing is assembled, except for on the gears, is with a hammer. If you pound on the freaking end of that, you can get it to slide down. I'm not gonna show anything else with this freaking transmission till I get it fixed. So, goodbye. All right guys, moving on to the next project of the day is this WRX. Some of you guys might recognize this car. This is Bobby's sister's car. It has been on the channel a few times. I think the first time it was on there, we did some mods like coilovers, wheels, the STI wing, that kind of stuff. And then the second time it needed a complete new motor actually. So we did a motor swap on it and now it's back. I rarely work on other people's cars unless it's like family or Bobby's family. So now it's back because when it rains or snows outside, the windshield wipers are constantly stuck on. So we got to figure that out. And then she said there's some sort of clunking or grinding or some sort of noise coming from the right rear wheel. So maybe a wheel bearing, loose coilover. They are Raceland coilovers, so maybe like a blown out coilover. But I'm gonna go drive the car right now. Currently snowy outside, so we're gonna see if the windshield wipers get stuck on. Well, it looks like they're already stuck on, and it's been sitting in the shop for a while, and it's not wet. I only have one wiper on there right now because I was looking, shut up, dumb car. I was looking at the wiper motor, but I did pick up a new switch. We have the old one dangling here, so let's unplug it and plug the new one in. It's not the switch. I don't see it being the motor. I did disconnect the windshield wiper fluid reservoir. I was thinking maybe if that was something was messed up with that, it would trigger the wipers to go on, but that wasn't the problem. It's got to be some sort of wiring issue, which, as you guys know, I do not like to deal with. Well, I did just find an issue. So I pulled off the wheel because I know this car does sit pretty freaking low in the summer with the summers on, summer tires, summer wheels. And it's a very common problem. I noticed this back in my Subi days. This harness right here sits right above the tire. And if you lower your car a lot, like clearly this one's lowered quite a bit, that harness can easily be rubbed through. And I got to look in and there's this wire. It was hardly connected. I am not sure if this is the problem for the windshield wipers. Regardless, I'm gonna repair that. We can go on a drive and see if the problem is fixed. Because once again, it only does it in the rain or the snow. So something's getting wet and triggering the wiper motor to kick on. Go to get this wire connected, maybe tuck the harness up and out of the way so it never happens again. Regardless, wherever the wire's for, it's not supposed to be broken. So let's get it fixed. Hey, so far they're not on. Let's make sure they actually work. Okay, cool. We have wipers that turn off when they're supposed to turn off and turn on when they're supposed to turn on. Was that the issue? We're not gonna know until we go take this thing outside in the rain and the snow. Definitely a sound in the back wheel bearing, or maybe the brake pads are super low. It almost seems like it only starts happening after you hit the brakes. It's intermittent. Either way, it's something in the right rear, so pop that wheel off, we'll be able to tell what that is. So far, wipers are not on, but I need to go find a big puddle or something to splash through and see if they come on. But I think that one wire probably fixed the issue, which would make sense. There also is a check engine light that I want to look into and probably take care of as well, just to get this thing 100% back up on the road. I don't know what it's for, but O2 sensor maybe. We'll scan that when we get back to the shop. Driving this thing brings back so many memories of my original Hawkeye that I built. Oh man, this interior is a classic. I love it. Went on like a 15-minute drive. Wipers did not come on when they shouldn't be coming on. So I think that issue's fixed. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap everything up, put it all back together. And then we have to figure out that bearing or that noise issue coming from this corner. Pretty sure it's a wheel bearing, but we'll see here in a minute. All right, we got the wheel off and the brake rotor off, calipers off, and it looks like these pads are pretty freaking worn out, as you guys can see. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, when you'd hit the brakes, it would start squeaking back here. And the problem is there is a little wear bar on the pads, and if that starts hitting the rotor, that'll cause a squeak, letting you know that it's time to replace the pads. So I'm gonna run in, we're gonna get these rotors turned. I believe there's plenty of life left on them. Gonna do a quick measurement, get these things turned, all new pads on the car, and that should take care of that issue. So yep, let's get this thing up in the air. Gotta get back to my roots with the jack and the jack stands, being that we have a car torn apart on the lift, which kind of sucks, but I'm spoiled now with the lift, so I don't mind. Rotors are dropped off at the machine shop, so it's gonna be a few hours before those things come back. There was still plenty of life left on them. Not really worth replacing at that point. We did pick up some new pads. We did need them locally, so I just ran to Napa and grabbed some Napa premiums. They're not obviously the highest performing pad in the world, but for what this car is used for, which is a point A to point B car, they'll definitely work good. I did also pick up this little tool. Saw this thing at O'Reilly's and thought it's kind of cool. It's a little brake piston spreader. In the past, I tried to use C-clamps and you always end up scratching the caliper and it just takes forever. So let's give this little thing a shot, see how good she works. If I can figure out how to use it, that is. I might be dumb, but I'm pretty sure this guy is not gonna work for calipers this style. It would work for like a normal caliper where you can actually get through the center of it, like the normal style of brake caliper. But being that these are like 2-pot, 4-pots, almost like a Brembo style, there's no way to actually use this tool for these calipers. I could be wrong. I've never used a tool like this before, but based off what I'm seeing, it ain't gonna work, which is kind of sad because it was like 60 buckaroonies. Rip. So I guess we're gonna resort to a big set of SK pliers and a towel so we don't scratch up the surface. I'm gonna look for a style of spreader that actually works for this. I think I know of a style that'll work. I'm just gonna order it online. Should be a little bit cheaper that way. Here's a little side-by-side, old versus new. I think she was fairly worn out, boys. Calipers are all loaded up, ready to go. As soon as the rotors come back, we can be done with that section of this little project for the day. Let's do a little superset action though. So as we're waiting on those rotors, we might as well figure out what the check engine light is all about. So according to our scanner, we have one code and it is for rear O2. Nope. I was way off. Post catalyst fuel trim system tooling bank 1 P2096. I'm gonna go ahead and guess it's for a front O2 sensor. Something's going on with the car and throwing that code. So I'm just gonna reset the system. We can drive it for a while. I don't know how long it's been on for, and then we can dig into it later on down the road. guys, the car's all finished up. I'm gonna torque down the lug nuts, go for a little drive, make sure we're good to go. I think we should be good. I think we fixed all the problems. I'm not sure about that check engine light. I'm guessing it'll come back on. We'll have to dig into it more. But the wipers are not on, and the little squeak, little rattle in the back is gone so far. Sick. I like when a plan works out. I'm gonna try to bed these pads in, but it's pretty icy out, so it might be impossible to do that today. But basically, I'm just gonna stop from 15 to 0, 30 to 0, 45 to 0, and that should be enough to get these pads bed in to the rotors, and she'll be on her merry way. Oh, bad road to do it on. There's someone right behind me. Big old rip. I am definitely going to be missing this car. I'm not sure how long we're going to be storing it here for. She will be missed. It was a fun build. We will be back better than ever. Also, I find it very odd, and I'm not sure why this is, but both the 8 and the 10 start better on E85. It's not that they start bad on pump gas, but they definitely like start up quicker on E85, which is completely backwards from what I'm used to. So I wish we could run E85 all the time in all the cars. Like if we had E85 stations here in Spokane instead of buying it by the barrel, every car that we own, besides the truck, would probably be on E85 because you can make so much more safe power, and it's sick. Why is there not all my Spokane people, why is there not a E85 pump in Spokane? I feel like we should start. I was thinking about this earlier, and Jared and I were talking about this. We need to start, someone needs to get like a petition going, maybe I should, to get E85 back in Spokane. Do you guys agree? If you're in Spokane, that'd be sick. That is gonna be a wrap for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm glad the Subaru was an easy fix from what I understand so far. That wire was super random. We just came across it and it seemed like it fixed the issue. Now maybe one day this transmission, we'll just come across whatever's wrong with it and we'll be able to fix it. That'd be handy. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.